Some tools to have handy would be a Phillips head screwdriver, a 3/8 wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, and vice grips, and a little piece of paper towel or rag to put inside the vice grips. Alright, well, I don't use a push mower very often, and it basically sits in the shed, but last year I rebuilt the entire carburetor with all new parts, and it sat pretty much since then. I tried to start it for the first time and it didn't start. So my guess is that from setting, carburetor gummed up with all kinds of crap. So today I'm going to show you how to take that apart and clean all that crap out of there. Now this motor, most lawnmowers have either a Briggs & Strat or something well known on them. This happens to be a Craftsman mower, and all the plates on it say Craftsman. Made by Sears. It's a 4-horse. Carburetors are pretty much all the same. They work the same way. They may be different shapes, sizes, colors, who knows, but this is a Craftsman. Alright, now the first thing I'm going to suggest is that you take a mental note, or even a picture, of up in here under the throttle mechanism. There's a bunch of little bars and springs and all kinds of stuff that hold it all together for the governor and this and that. It could be a nightmare to put it back together if you don't remember how it came apart. So take a mental note of that, and we're going to take the air filter off. You could probably get yourself a new one of them while you're at it. We'll get to work. Alright, well, this mower, since it seems to have a full tank of gas in it, and I don't want to mess around with draining the fuel out of it or anything and trying to pull the plug off or the hose off and plug it up real quick with a screw or something, I'm going to pinch it off with a vice grip. But so I don't damage the hose, I'm going to use a piece of paper towel in the jaws of the vice grip. And it doesn't have to be clamped super tight, just enough to pinch off the fuel flow. Just like that. That way we can take this off and it's not going to spew everywhere. Okay, well, since I've had this carburetor off before, I happen to know the simplest way to take this one off is to take out the two 10mm or Phillips head screws that are holding the intake tube onto the side of the motor, and that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, and then you can see that those two bars are where they're attached to. Just take a mental note of where they go, so that way when you put it back together, there's no questions. This one happens to have a spring on the back side, and that goes on the bottom. And I'm going to leave that one attached, and I'm going to take this one off. The one with the spring is actually for the throttle lever, and she's free. And then we're going to pull the fuel hose off the back. If you want, you can put a rag under it to catch it so you don't have it on your mower. Well, now that I have the carburetor off the mower, I have it set upside down here, and we're going to go ahead and take the bowl off of it. It's a 1/2 inch bolt on the bottom. Once you take that out, there's two small washers. I think they're paper. You don't want to lose them. And the bowl will come off. And if you look in there, mine's pretty clean, but you might find some stuff in there that looks like peanut butter, and there's rust and all kinds of garbage floating around in there. That's what was clogging your carburetor up. And inside, you will see, this is what fills your bowl up with fuel when it hangs upside down. The mower will use what fuel is in the bowl, and the float will drop down and allow more fuel to fill. And when the bowl fills up, it closes the needle valve. And you can see, let's see here, that part that goes in and out of the body of the carburetor when I move the float, that's your needle. And that's where the problem lies with this one, and it won't run. I'm just going to take this pin out. And don't lose that either. When you lift that off, you'll see the needle dangles from the bottom of it. And then you can see right down in there and see the needle seat. This one happens to have a little orange gasket in there. And you can also see in the main jet, see if there's anything plugged up in there. I'm going to spray this out with some carburetor cleaner. I'm going to do it off to the side. I don't want it on the camera. We'll also clean the float and the bowl as well. Just wipe them off, get all the crust off of them. Alright, we're going to put it back together now. Never used compressed air in those jets and the needle seat in there. Use compressed air, you run a chance of blowing one of them little gaskets out, and they're so small you'll probably never find them again. So I just wipe them out, and if you have to, maybe a pipe cleaner or a paper clip to dislodge something. And we'll just set the needle right back down to like that, and we can put that pin back in. And that's about all there is to that. You can take this particular one, the screw that holds the bowl on. That's where the fuel gets into the jet. That one seems to be crudded up pretty good. We're going to hit that with some carb cleaner as well. I'm going to leave the gaskets over here though. Okay, now I have everything ready to go back together. We'll go ahead and put the bowl back on. Gasket would help. Make sure that it's not twisted or inside out, half of it or something like that. Make sure it sits on there correctly. And we'll put this back on. Then the two gaskets for this. Okay. We'll tighten this back up just enough to smush that rubber gasket in there. And you'll feel it stop when it's tight. Right there. And we're ready to put everything back on. Try to fire it up. This is probably the hardest part of the whole job. Wow. There she is. Make sure they're nice and tight. And we'll put our fuel line back on. Okay. And that ought to be about that. Our fuel line's back on. We can take our vice grips off of there. Let the fuel go again. Just keep an eye around the lip of the bowl. Make sure that the gasket is holding. Don't see any fuel pouring out of it anywhere. The only thing left is the air filter. This thing should be ready to fire up. Now, like I said, this is the same on pretty much any small engine. Carburetors may have different shapes, sizes, colors, who else knows what, but the process is pretty much the same. They all have a needle, they all have a float, and that'll about wrap it up.